I'm gonna make a little bit of a video about my international. I started a YouTube channel not too long ago, a month ago or so, and we do a lot of stuff out here, building stuff, fabricating, working on the farm, and like I said, I haul rock and aggregate and stuff with this truck, and so I just figured I'd make a little video real quick about the truck. Have some people asking about it before. I bought it in Kansas City on the Missouri side at a dealership. Guy used it for hauling asphalt. It's a 2004 International dt466 with an Allison automatic. It's been a good truck. I bought it. It had 96,000 miles on it. Kansas law, though, is you can only haul 10 on the front axle, 10,000 pounds, and 20 on the rear. So I was rated at 30,000, and the truck weighed 16 and a half empty, loaded down with an operator. And so I couldn't haul but more than about 6.5 ton of rock in it. So, and that was because I bought it without the drop axle, just a straight truck. So I've been looking and I was reading, and I found a guy in Kansas City that had this drop after I had the truck about a year and a half, and I decided I want to put a drop axle under it. So that's a 12K or 13K drop, steerable, Alco wheels. I give $3,500 for it. Brought it home and I installed it in one weekend. Bolted right up. With them shark bites, it makes life a lot easier having shark bites and stuff to plumb that air lines and stuff. So now I can haul about 13 ton on the truck, and before I was at like 6.5, 7 ton legally. But without going taller on the side, I can only put about 12.5 on it, but I can haul 12.5 all day and be legal on all my axles. The truck's got like 104, 105,000 on it. I've had it, like I said, about 3 years now, and it's been a real good truck. It's a lot more practical and usable now. It's got a steerable drop under it. But like I said, that's just what I use to haul a little bit of rock for the driveways or the farm, or if someone needs something, hauled, I'll haul it. But it's been a real good truck, and I wouldn't trade it for anything other than a bigger one. But then I couldn't do small jobs. This thing could still get in on them small jobs and small driveways where a tandem and all that, and tried them and stuff can't get in. So what I started out with, here's what I started with before I bought this one. I ran this C60 for a year. 72 C60 here. Had a rock bed on it. And I used it for a year or so, and it can haul about 11 ton. It's so light with the steel bed it had on it. Got a 350 4-bolt main steel crank. It's a good truck. I still use it on the farm. What happened was I was going and hauling a load of rock to the local town, and I dropped the drive shaft out of it, and it hit the concrete, and it flew up in the air and broke the pump off, the PTO shaft off the housing on the transmission, or the pump housing. It bolts to the transmission, and then, like I said, it knocked the U-joints out of it and all. And so I scrapped the bed. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have, but I scrapped the bed on it, put the drive shaft back in there. It broke the ear on the shaft that comes out of the tranny, the bell housing. It broke one of the ears off of the bolt pattern there. So I just washered it up the same thickness as that ear that I'm missing to, kind of balance it out. But it needs a new coupler. But I just haven't messed with it. If you're not going more than about 40, 45 mile an hour around here on the farm, but it doesn't shake too bad. After about 50, it starts shaking pretty bad. So eventually I'll get the new piece and bolt it up to the transmission. It probably wouldn't be that much. Find it a salvage yard, but that's the truck that I started with, and it's got power steering. I bought a 1976, 74 Mac tandem, and it had no power steering. And that one, like I said, had power steering on the C60, so I was kind of jealous when I'd run my tandem. I ended up selling my tandem, but looking back, I probably shouldn't have done that, because now I'm kind of looking for a tandem. But it was just funny that my big tandem, it had no power steering but a big steering wheel, and I had to crank it everywhere and had to be moving to get it to steer, and the old C60 could be loaded down and steer it with one finger. So I always thought the amenities on that. And obviously C60 don't have AC. Either did the Mac I had. It had the dt466. It was a pretty good old Mac. Bought it from a buddy. I restored it. I'll have to put some pictures on here. Restored it and put a lot of money in it, and then I ended up selling it and didn't get near as much as I should have out of it. I think I got $5,500 out of it, and I give the guy 4,500. Then I put about another 4 or 5 in it, so I took a pretty good loss on it. But I sold it on an auction where you can't buy your item back, and there's no reserve. And it was right when the market started coming down about 8 months ago. You know, it was pretty high, and I waited till the tail end of it, thinking, well, it'll bring, you know, 10 or 12, maybe 15 if I'm lucky, and brought $5,500. So I was real disappointed in that. So if I knew it was going to bring that little, I would have kept it. It wouldn't have taken long to make that money back on it. But I thought if I get 10 or 15, I could put that to a newer tandem or semi and then get a belly dump. You know, the options are endless, but I just thought if I could get, you know, 10, 15 of it, I'd sell it. And little did I know, I got $5,500 out of it. So, but, like I said, I take skid loader to jobs too. So I take my PJ, got a 20-foot deck, 3-foot dovetail, 2014 PJ that I put behind my truck here. And then I'll haul the 10 or 12 ton of rock, put the skid loader on it, and get to a job and unhook the trailer, unload the skid loader, and dump the rock in a pile if I can't tailgate it with my truck. And then spread it with skid loader and then load back up and head home. And this truck does have an air tailgate and live PTO. That's another thing. It has live PTO, hydraulics at the back, hydraulics at the front. It was a state truck before I got it, and they had it's got a spreader bar on the inside of the truck there to run a spreader bed. I can adjust the flow and all that electrically, and it's got the joystick in the cab for the plow that goes on the front. It's got the hydraulics right here for that. Like I said, live PTO. It's nice having that. So if I'm hauling, you know, I've helped the township before, helped them out a couple times where I'm just going down the road at, you know, 55 mile an hour, 60, and I get to where I'm going to be spreading, and I just slow down to about 25, and then I just raise my bed up and pull the latch on the air gate and tailgate it and on to the next load I'm hauling out of the sand pit. The township trucks, you have to come to a dead stop, pull the PTO out, raise the bed, let the clutch out. And time they do all that, if we hauled, say, 4 or 5 hours, I could have a whole load on them. You know, if we're about 15 minutes or so from the sand pit we haul from. So on a you know, 4 or 5 hour turnaround, like if we're doing 4 or 5 hours of work, by the end of the day, I'll have one more load on them just from that little bit of time I save from not coming to a complete stop that they have to. So it adds up at the end of the day if you're doing stuff like that. But like I said, I got a pretty good deal on this truck, and it's been a good truck. I had the pump housing on the front of the engine, the cover come loose, and the bolts had backed out. And I was going down the road and noticed the oil pressure was dropping. Well, I pulled up to a stoplight, and it was down to about 5 pounds of pressure when it should be holding about 20, 25 at an idle. So I knew something wasn't right, and I babied it home, and it running about 45 on the way home. I was still only holding about 20, 25 when I should have been holding 50 or 60 on this truck. It's what it seems to hold normally. So I got home, got to looking, and seen it was leaking a little oil, and the bolts had come out of the front cover. So I had to pull the pump off and the PTO shaft, and I redid the bolts on the front cover, just put new ones in it, and re-siliconed it, and boom, bumped my oil pressure right back up. I looked at the oil pump when I was in there. It's gear driven, not much to go wrong, and it looked like it was brand new still. So I didn't put a new oil pump or nothing in it, just resealed it and put the new bolts back in it, and it's been good ever since. Put a couple tires on it, which is normal. And this one here is about new, but it's got a couple that are going to need it here pretty soon. But overall, it's been a good truck, and I wouldn't trade it for much. But well, that's all I have for this afternoon, and just stay humble and keep grinding.